Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this community call. We had the last one back in January, of course, and in between, we had the annual meeting last week at the drilling conference in Stavanger. So, of course, this is the annual cycle where we have new officers coming in and out. So that's kind of the main point of today's meeting. But I have some updates on the activities. So let's get going. This is the agenda for today. Spend the first part of the meeting with a regular section update, the closing of the election, the process that we have for bringing in new officers. I see Blakely is here on the call, so she will have the opportunity to introduce herself and transition basically to her new term as the chair of the section. Then I will continue with the membership trends and update on the activities. Drillbotics and DWIS are the main ones. And then spend the last 5-10 minutes talking about upcoming events and meetings, etc. So for those that missed the meeting in Stavanger, we had about 60 people in the room. This is the annual meeting that we have, of course, together with the ART group from IADC. It was live streamed. There is the link for those that are interested to listen to it. Sorry. Let's see if I can put it on the chat so people can. 1 second, let me see here real quick. If I manage to hold on a second, I'll find it here. Let me put that in the chat. There, okay. So it was recorded, the meeting. John de Guard identified the marks where you can hear the different sections. So our update is at about 22:45. It doesn't last very long, maybe 25 minutes or 30 or so. You can hear what I presented there, what we discussed. And importantly, for those that are interested, there are 3 presentations from 3 guests that we had. One was from Kongsberg about remotely controlled ships. I thought that was interesting. Then there are some interviews from different sponsors, etc. And then there are 2 more presentations. One from a food processing company that has gone into introducing, data collection, analytics on that data, instrument their process basically to bring it under control and monitor. It was interesting, not directly related to what we are doing, but nevertheless, some lessons transfer directly. And then there was one last presentation from a professor at NTNU who talked about autonomous robotic systems. That's a very advanced topic, I think, but still some lessons that we can learn. In our case, I think we are at the very early stages going from automated to autonomous. Even though the term autonomous is being used rather freely, we don't really have truly autonomous systems in our immediate applications. But I mean, other industries, other applications have advanced much more than we have. But of course, we can always learn and see what are the challenges, what lessons I have learned, where the effort is, etc. It's an interesting topic. So that's about the meeting itself. The main point, of course, of the meeting is the annual election. This is the slide. Same probably as what we saw last time, but now is formalized. There were no objections. The people that were nominated were elected in their new roles, and we are in the next few weeks we're transitioning basically from to the new term. I'm moving out. I'm now on the board of the section. Blakely is taking over, and I think maybe this is a good opportunity here for Blakely to introduce herself, and so for the community to get to know her. And the next meeting on, she's going to be running these calls. So Blakely, please go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Demetrios. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you all for kind of bringing me in. And I'm really excited to start off as kind of the section chair for DSATS. I think a little bit about myself. I've kind of loosely been involved with DSATS for a few years. I know you've seen some kind of join the team and help kind of continue to drive the kind of automation and interoperability conversations forward. A little bit about myself. I've been in the oil field for about 10 years. I started offshore Gulf of Mexico as a MLWD hand. Got to run a lot of cool tools and see a lot of cool places. And then I moved to Neighbors and worked my way kind of through operations, some project management, and actually kind of saw Smart Drill, our process automation, from kind of inception to commercialization and scale. So, drilling systems automation is something very near and dear to my heart, and it's been kind of a big pillar within my career. So I'm excited to join the team and work with you guys more over the coming months.
All right. Thank you, Blakely. Welcome.
Thank you, Demetrios.
I would like to invite the community to help and support Blakely, and we have a lot of interesting, exciting work in front of us, and there is no shortage of that. I think the next few years are we're gonna see some good developments in the area of drilling automation. All right, so let's move on then from there. The typical update on the statistics for the section. Now February data is out. We're a little bit behind compared to the same numbers last year on the professional members. We're slightly ahead on the student members. So kind of mixed trends, but we need to look into that and see how we can maintain the same level of engagement. I imagine there is a little bit of a slowdown in the industry, and that's probably a factor why this is happening in terms of renewals and memberships, etc. Nevertheless, we have to keep looking for engaging the people, our members, and keep them involved in the activities. And this is a challenge that we have seen over the years. Even though we have something like 2,500 professional members, most people are kind of watching from the sidelines what's happening, and maybe, I don't know, 50 or something end up participating actively, volunteering the activities of the section as judges or, coding or contributing to the DWIS work that we're doing or the verification. Everybody is welcome to dial in and listen and contribute. And this is an opportunity to reach the alignment between different companies in the industry, in the segment, operators, service, OEMs. When you go to the conferences, you hear about collaboration, but really this is where hit the ground, and we have to make it happen, this collaboration. It happens at the higher levels, the executive level, but us, the technical people at the ground level also, we can make a lot of this happen, So in terms of the distribution, the US here is where most of our members are, but interestingly enough, the next 2-3 countries are Nigeria, India, and Saudi Arabia. So that's telling where the growth is for the section and where the next generation of professionals will be coming from, and students, of course. You can see the distribution Up there, the three biggest sections are Gulf Coast, Middle East, and North Sea. And of course, Africa is next. So this is a trend that we have to keep in mind. And now DSATS has chairs for all these areas, for Africa and for India and for Australia and South America. And there is talent that we can bring in from those areas. So that's something that we need to keep in the back of our minds. Okay. In terms of the financials, Robert Darby is the outgoing treasurer, and Sam Dharmaselvan is going to take over. He was the deputy treasurer for the next year. Our terms are annual, up to 3 years max. So for the next year at least, and probably for the next 3, Sam is going to be the treasurer. And here is what he's inheriting. We have a total sum in the different accounts, about 85,000. Now, remember, some of that will have to pay for the documentary that the Drillbotics documentary that David Gibson produced for us and raised funds for it. There is a little bit of money left in the roadmap, an account that was created to fund the industry initiative, which has been around. These are leftover funds, really. That project has concluded. Drillbotics has its own account, and it has been funded mostly by sponsors in the industry. This year, DSATS is helping with the expenses of Drillbotics. For next year, for next cycle, we got 25K from SPE, and we hope to establish a more sustained level of support from SPE and the industry. We have an opportunity, I think. I have a separate slide for Drillbotics, but we have an opportunity here to revitalize the program, to add some activities, some initiatives to help level the playing field between the universities, so everybody can compete on a more equal basis and give opportunity to the students to work on real world problems, and for sponsors to get the benefit of the students participating. And there are a few ideas on the table, and there is a call. I'll get to the details when we get there, but I think we are at a turning point for Drillbotics to make it more relevant for the industry. And DWIS has its own account. We are hoping to raise some small money here and there from tickets and events, etc., for DWIS, but it's not enough to carry, the expenses of the program at the level that they are happening. Luckily, there is funded work going on in Norway with NORS, and this is really what has kept this activity going and growing. Without that funding, industry funding in Norway, it would be really a much smaller scale work based on the volunteers. So hopefully we can keep that model working, and there is nothing really stopping us from raising funds from the industry to fund this activity. And as you will see, I have a few slides for that. It's picking up momentum and participation, in-kind participation, but we can always also raise funds to keep this work going. I'll get into more details as we go into some of those. All right, so for the Drillbotics specifically, the team from Clausthal University, TUC, Technical University of Clausthal in Germany, traveled to Stavanger, and they had a booth over there, and they presented their paper as well. I think I was very happy to see the traffic that they had at their booth. How many people stopped by to see the rig, the scale rig that they had built, and the work that they had done. It was very encouraging to see the level of work that this group achieved. Just for the history, they came into the competition, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. The beginning, they chose the direction of building a little rotary steerable tool for drilling through the rock samples, etc. The first couple of years, it didn't work. They were learning. They didn't give up. They kept changing the concept and working on it from 1 year to the next as people rolled in and out of the team. And this year, it was all working the way it was supposed to. And not only working on the hardware side, which is the expensive side, but also they had developed a lot of code, a lot of software to complement to learning from the DWI's work. All the data that they were producing, they were describing it, with a semantic network and making it available on a network for additional actors, applications to utilize that data and provide feedback back into the hardware, the rig that was doing the drilling. So all this was, I thought it was amazing what these guys did. And you see the very high energy young people that pick up these concepts much easier than some of us, we are not used to this type of work, but it was very encouraging. Now, the other part that happened was that Robin, the technical director for drilling, he had 15 minutes or so at the opening ceremony of the drilling conference, and he spent maybe half of that talking about robotics. And I thought that was very encouraging. And I don't want to hear, brag, but the industry as a whole recognizes the need to attract students and universities and new people. And that's the point. It's not robotics itself, Robotics is just one way to bring that message up. And if we can make it work better, everybody benefits. So the industry recognizes that need, and that's why Robin, and there is support inside SP at the higher levels to have programs like Drillbotics more visible and more supported. And I think that's excellent. And we need to take advantage of that support, Now, going forward, as I mentioned, there is a 25-26 competition that we're about to kick off. Enrique Lozoya is taking over as the program chair for Drillbotics from Fred, who has done a lot of work and spent a lot of time. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Fred for his contribution. So Enrique is trying to finalize the guidelines for the next cycle. And he called a meeting, don't remember when it is, in the next week or so, and this is the opportunity that I mentioned earlier, to set the guidelines to attract more students and maybe give them credit for the work that they are doing, and attract more sponsors as well for them to share their data and get something useful out of the work that the students are doing. So all that is on the table as we're trying to push this forward. On the sponsorship side, on the money side, we're trying to put together a message, a professional marketing message, both for universities as well as for sponsors, to attract them and raise the level of participation, basically, going forward. So those two efforts are in parallel, the competition guidelines and the message that we're trying to convey. So that's all I had for the Drillbotics. Now the next few slides are for another initiative of the section, the DWIS, Drilling and Well Interoperability Standards. I thought it deserved its own little section here because it's the biggest activity in DSATS and it has the most momentum right now. So let me move right on into it. So this is a very colorful slide, of course, but it gives a big picture of what DWIS is trying to do. So from the bottom up, at the very low level, if you want, you have the drilling control systems at the different rigs, the Amphions and all the different brand names out there, from NOV, from Neighbor, from Ensign, from all. Now, that let's think about that as the PLC level control. where you control the different machines, cyberbase, and you see all this stuff. Then on top of this, there are typically layers like automated drilling control systems, like Novos, Drill, etc. Those are applications, pieces of software that can, they're not at the lowest level like a PLC, but they can drive those machines to execute certain sequences, for example, how to bring the pumps up, how to tag bottom, how to execute a sequence consistently, time after time after time after time. And of course, they have other functions. It's not just executing sequences, but they monitor for the integrity of the process, respect certain safety limits, etc. Those applications, they provide proprietary, or they have interfaces, API interfaces that they expose to the outside world. And each one of them have their own, and they are different. So when you are a service company now on the top side, or a consulting company, or a university, or an operator, or whatever, and you have an application that is trying to do a well placement, or you have to do hole cleaning, or you have to do, ROP optimization, or anything that you have to do, you have to interface now through to these ADCS systems, and that varies as you move from rig to rig to rig to rig. You need to customize and validate your application, and that those differences, these different interfaces and different versions of the applications, create inefficiencies. So the idea for DWIS was, can we add a layer in the middle, which is this green layer here, to help standardize that? So you develop all these applications once, and you can deploy them in different rigs without having to retest them and revalidate them every time. It's an ambitious objective, of course, but there are benefits doing that. And if of course, there are obstacles as well, and both technical and business related, commercial. But so that's what DWIS was, in a nutshell. Now, there are the group in Norse with some contribution from several volunteers has worked on this for the last 2-3 years, and they have done a lot of coding and trying to prove the concept. It's not yet at a scale ready for large-scale deployment or testing, but it's proof of concept. We're still at proof of concept. Now, this middle layer, the DWIS in the middle, the heart of it is a piece where the data comes in and out, where both from top and from bottom. Data comes in different formats, different interfaces, and the idea is to make it all accessible by all parties involved that have permission, of course, to access the data. That means, the time synchronization, the units, the semantic description of all these channels is there for everybody to recognize what data that they are using. And so both the users and the providers of the data can recognize what's coming in and out. And as new actors plug in at the top, they can feed back their data, their derived data or control actions back into the network, and everybody else can recognize and understand what data is coming in and out. And of course, as actors plug in and out, or they fail, if a sensor fails, or if a piece of software hangs up, the system has to remain functional and reliable. Cannot collapse because one of data source, for example, disappeared. So all those issues is what the team has been looking on over the years. And this is the very kind of high-level picture that you see here with the different colors and the different participants. And in the different demos that the team has been putting together, they're trying to show pieces of this functionality as we go. So there was a demo in 2023, and I apologize that most of you have heard this before, but it's good to refresh everybody's mind. There was a demo in 2023 where the main objective was to show that it is technically feasible as new actors up here plug in live dynamically or plug out, they can contribute, they can read the data that is available, be able to consume it, and feed data back that is understandable by everyone else on the network. And all that without human intervention. That's the computers, the applications are able to digest the data that comes in and out. Again, at a proof of concept level, not large scale deployment. And that demo in 2023 was successful. It was led by Norse, of course. So last year, 2024, we planned the next demo, which focused on the bottom side here. And the idea was, okay, whatever we have developed up here, the infrastructure in the middle, plus any advisors on top, can we move it from one rig to the next as is without additional customization? And of course, this now, it has to work with all the different ADCS systems that are supported. And that demo didn't happen on time in 2024. The team ran into a lot of implementation issues, which is not surprising. That's what the real world is like, but they haven't given up on this. This is still ongoing, and it's going to happen now in 2025. Let me move on to the next slide, and you'll see what's happening. So the last activity was a demo last month, at the end of last month. Eric, who's leading this effort practically, he called it Demo Zero. What was that Demo Zero? I'll have a slide next that explains that. It focused on managing the ROP, having several parties involved. The participants in that one were Halliburton, Baker Hughes, and Sekal, and of course Norse. There was no real well. It used Norse's Open Lab simulator to feed data back. The Open Lab can simulate both the well and the rig. So you get data from as if they were coming from downhole, but also you get data from the rig, the surface equipment. And it was a distributed setup where the different actors, they were each one at their home base. Let me go to the next slide and I'll come back here. So through the internet, the blackboard, you remember that blackboard, this icon here, which is the centerpiece where data is exchanged. It was replicated in all the different participants. So the same data was available, copies of it, for all the actors. As you can see here, blackboard here, blackboard there, blackboard there, blackboard there. The same blackboard available to each one of them locally. And now the different advisors are plugging in. This is not the final solution. This goes for this demo, okay? Each advisor plugs in and uses the data that everybody else sees and feeds back the data that it would like to provide, whether it's limits or control actions or advice for the driller or whatever it is. And though from there now, it can go to the simulator, Open Lab, to be executed and get data back. That was Demo Zero, So it was mostly a software exercise. There is no rig yet, but it worked. And that was what it was doing functionally. You have the advisors from 4 different providers going through the blackboard and driving the Open Lab simulator here. So it was kind of setting the stage, if you want, for the next few demos going forward. And what are the next few demos? I'll come back to the consortium. The next few demos are here. And you can see that the goal basically is to try this setup with different ADCS systems and different simulators. The simulator, it doesn't matter really what simulator is being used. The challenge is to work with different ADCS systems. But the last couple of steps in this evolution here are actual rigs. At the end of this year, we're planning to demonstrate all this at the Ulrich test rig in Stavanger, and then next year prove all this in a real platform out in the North Sea operated by Aker BP. So you see that this is becoming real now. It's not anymore just a lab exercise, and because of this traction that is getting, you see that industry participants are getting on board, NOV and its neighbors and HMH and others soon. And you have providers for these advisors that are coming both from service companies as well as operators. Petrobras themselves, they have a digital twin, basically, that they are running, and they are providing data into this framework for mostly on the hydraulic side, the pump side. So I think this is very exciting that we are at this level and there is this level of activity planned going forward. So which brings me to the slide that I skipped. We're trying to maintain this momentum that DWIS has and build on it and bring more people on board. So Matt Isbell, who is leading the DWIS advisory board, organized the consortium the day after the drilling conference on March 7. Aker BP very kindly hosted us and has been very supportive of all this effort. We had about 60 people that attended this, and representing service companies, contractors, and OEMs, all three. From the operator side, we had Equinor and Aker BP, but not actually Exxon was there, I have to say. But it was not, we didn't have too many operators, but at the end of the day, they have to be we have to bring them in the table because they will see the benefit of this. And this consortium, the morning part was mostly a review of the progress so far, technical presentations, what has been achieved through these demos, what we're trying to implement, how it works, etc. Mostly technical presentations. In the afternoon, the panel expanded a little bit the discussion. There was a panel, both operators and service. Aker BP was the operator there, to discuss, how do we deploy this in a larger scale? How do we spread the risks and liabilities between the different parties? What are the pain points that we're addressing by this? What is the relevance? Why it makes sense, not from a technical point of view, but what is the market need that it addresses? And of course, raise further awareness, take this message and take it back home to the decision makers in all these companies and invite participation, people to join the different work streams and contribute and learn what's going on and see what they would like to see and what they would like to bring in. It has been a very interesting exercise, and I think is what I like the most is that we're working as an industry, not as companies, trying to kind of squeeze our way in and keep the competitor out, but everybody's working because I think the realization is there that we have to work like this for all of us to gain from this kind of initiatives. We have to improve the efficiency and the productivity of the industry as a whole, not just individual companies, And I think people are starting to realize that and act on this. That's the more important part. Okay, so that was it really for this consortium. The next step on this path it's a couple of weeks, March 28th. Typically, those demos are being recorded. So if someone cannot be physically present to see it, there is a recording that becomes available. And so all of us have the opportunity to see what happened and what worked and what didn't. And of course, Eric and all of us were trying to publish this, not publish, but make it visible in industry events, conferences, talks, etc. The idea is to spread this message as much as possible and get, more traction from all the actors. So I think that's it. That's all I had for the WIS. I don't know if maybe there is a good time here to any questions that anybody has, either in the chat or raise your hand and ask something. I'll be glad to answer to the extent I can. I hope I can then create here some excitement, even if it's a small excitement. If not, no problem. We can continue here. We're almost pretty much at the conclusion part of the call, and to give back everybody half an hour of the original time. So feel free to come back with any question. The last part of the call is upcoming events. We have a spot for a webinar on June 30. Typically, we have to prepare for this a couple of months in advance. That has not been assigned yet. So if anybody is interested to share their work, their lessons, their successes, or even their lessons learned, please reach out now to Blakely or me. It doesn't matter. Blakely is going to be leading this effort, of course, going forward. Reach out, and that spot is open. Typically, those are 30 minutes, I think, and there is a Q&A at the end. So it's like an hour event. The audience that you get is in the order of 30, 50 people that are interested, in this kind of work. And tomorrow, for those of you that are familiar with David Gibson's V-Door Locksmith, he is hosting Eric Caillou from Norse, and I'm sure the DWIS topic will come up again, and maybe the discussion is broader than that, but that will be an opportunity, I think, for some people to hear more directly what's happening and the successes and the plans going forward, etc. Other than this, there is the special session that we have as DSATS at the ATC. So Maury, our North America chair, is working on this. And now that the drilling conference is behind us, our folks in Europe, Serafima and Eric, already, I think, are looking for planning speakers in the event for next year. It's almost non-stop. One finished last week and already start looking how to make the next one better and what people to bring in, etc. So you get the idea of how this works. And in between now, we can have events depending on the level of interest and participation. Of course, we have these bi-monthly meetings, community meetings, where typically we have the opportunity for someone to come in and give a technical presentation. We didn't have one for this time, but this is a vehicle that we can use to share knowledge amongst the community. And it's open to everyone here. So please spread the word. And if you would like to present a paper or some field trial or an algorithm or anything that could benefit the community, this is an opportunity here to do that. Closing, the last slide I have is not so much a conclusion slide, but is the same goals and challenges that I presented at the annual meeting. And just one last time, I would like to highlight the need for more active participation from the community on some of these initiatives or new initiatives. There is no shortage of ideas. There is, after the DSATS V2 initiative, if you remember, a couple of years back, there is a pipeline of ideas on human factors, on both technical and business case, let's say, business benefits, identifying them. But we can't really get those off the ground if we don't have enough critical mass of people to drive them. It's key to have that participation. Otherwise, we're going to be moving. The pace at which we're moving depends directly on how many people are available to participate. So that's important, that point. I think the mission for the section remains the same, how to raise awareness in the industry and how to help align the industry subsegments so that we're all pulling in the same direction. Typically what has happened, and most of you know this, is that technical people or developers are looking to develop a technology which may or may not succeed in the marketplace. And that should not be like the roll of a dice. There should be more alignment all the way from the beginning to the end of what we are developing, why we are developing, who benefits from this, and what need we address. If we manage to reach that, I think our path forward and the pace of adoption will be faster. And we keep running into the same obstacles. The history of drilling automation for the last 20 years, I'm afraid we're gonna see the same thing happen with AI now going forward. So let's learn what we can and let's do things better in the next cycle of technology. Of course, the next point there is how there is a lot of talk and a lot of excitement about geothermal, of course, repurposing wells for CO2 storage, etc. There is a lot of potential, I think, deploying some of the automation technologies that we are talking into some of these other applications. And maybe there are some twists, some interesting twists that will make things interesting. But the potential is there. Now, on the talent side, I think it's important to try to bring people from other fields, not the traditional petroleum engineering, electrical, mechanical, but fields like IT, operations research, machine learning, AI, etc. I think that's the direction that things are going, and we have to keep our minds open to bring in these people. We're going to need them, whether we like it or no. This is the direction that things are going. And of course, bring in ideas and lessons from other industries, whether it's this robotics, for example, that we had at the conference, or anything from other applications, aviation, etc. We're not the first ones to face this kind of problems. There is a lot to learn, and it would be arrogant to think that we can fix it ourselves the best way possible. Anyway, I'll stop here. The next community call, and Blakely here has the option to adjust the schedule and see together with a group of officers. But I think the next community call will take place on May 8th, again, the second Thursday of the month, 8:30 to 10. The format may stay the same, may change a little bit, but it's important to keep the community. At the end, DSATS is the community. What we are doing here is for the community. It's not for the officers, it's not for the board. It's for the benefit of all of us, Okay, I'm stopping here. I'd like to invite questions, comments, or suggestions, anything. And if not, I think we can close it. Thank you, Rio. Any other comments from anybody else, either on the chat or maybe I have missed some? I'm sorry. All right. Well, in that case, I would like to thank you all for taking the time to participate, and I would like to thank you all for your support and help. And I would like to encourage to bring in one colleague if you can, and attend some of these calls and some demos, and use these opportunities that you have to share knowledge and publish your work. I appreciate, the interest of all of you, in the areas of automation, etc. We can close it here. Yeah, John.
Demetrios, thanks for all the effort you've put into leading this group of cats over the last several years, and it's really appreciated. You put a lot of effort in here, and we are where we are because of the effort you've spent on this.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. I have learned a lot from you and all the previous leaders of DSATS, and I'm sticking around. I'm not going away. You know, this is something we have to keep pushing forward. You know.
Yeah, it gets under your skin, huh?
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And talk to you in a couple of months, I guess. Bye.
Yep.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.